Chris Southworth, Secretary General at the International Chamber of Commerce for the UK, joins me now. Chris, thanks for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
So clearly, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party would like to tout this as a victory, the fact that the UK has come out with just a 10% tariff relative to the 20% that the EU is facing and higher tariffs for Asian economies. But is that really the case? Is this a victory for Keir Starmer and the Labour Party, or is it simply a reflection of the structure of the UK economy and the fact that it's a much more services-led economy than goods?
Yeah, it's not a victory for anyone. I mean, these are the largest sweeping tariffs we've seen since the 1930s. And there's some pretty striking aspects to that as well. You know, the tariffs have thumped the poorest the hardest. So Africa's been thumped 10% on top of US aid cuts. Don't forget that. So, you know, the 700 million people living on $2 a day, this is not going to help that at all. And then if you look at the UK context, you know, we've got a pretty thin budget with a £9 billion headroom. We've got £300 billion of trade with the US. It's a third of our total trade as a UK economy. And we've got major challenges where we need to drive growth and tackle some of the infrastructure issues and imbalances that we've got, which are the same issues, by the way, that the US has. And this isn't going to help anybody achieve that goal.
You raised a great point about the impact on some of the African and Southeast Asian economies. That's precisely what the Vietnamese Prime Minister was out saying. You know, remember, Mr. Trump, we are a developing nation here. But we are on to talk about the UK, so we'll put that aside for a minute. You talk about the fiscal headroom, the limited fiscal headroom that Chancellor Reeves has already. Clearly, this puts the pressure on Keir Starmer to continue trying to negotiate a trade deal. He seems to think he's going to be able to get an economic deal that could potentially provide some relief here, but it sounds like this 10% tariff from the U.S. is an unchanging aspect of these new tariffs. Why else would he structure them separately, this 10% baseline, from the additional tariffs? Do you think there is actually hope that Starmer could get that level reduced?
Well, look, I think the UK need a slightly different plan, don't we? You know, we have the spring statement and a sort of rebalancing of the numbers. We lost $9 billion and put $9 billion back is effectively what happened, and then literally the next day we got Trump tariffs coming at us. You know, we need a much more resilient economic plan. I think that's one of the big takeaways for the UK. That means we need to drive much harder at growth, much harder at regulatory reform. There's lots of things that we can be doing to drive up trade overall, and modernising the trading system, and, you know, revamping the financial regulations around trade finance to put more working capital into the economy. We have to do those things as well as a deal. It's not a deal at best is 50-50.
Right.
The government, I believe, is going for a digital economy agreement style deal. That's exactly what we've been recommending. There is a decent chance. We've got a lot of alignment with the US. But it's a bet, and I don't think that alone is enough. We have to do a lot more to build that headroom up for the UK, because one thing we do know is with the Trump administration, everything changes every single hour, every single day of the week. So we've got 4 years ahead, so you know, we need to look after ourselves and our own national interests and priorities.